Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, Tom Allen and the IU football team are going bowling, and Stephen Walker was in Lincoln to recap last Saturday's special game against Nebraska.
And the men's soccer team dominated their day match against Ohio State, and Miya Ingle joined us in studio for the highlights. This is Hoosier Sports Night.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Jordan Gould.
And I'm Jevin McCoskey.
Now, Jevin, Indiana, the football team, of course, going to a bowl game. They're going bowling and not at the IMU.
And what's funny about that? Head coach Tom Allen handing out tickets today in the IMU, trying to pack the Rock, just as Nebraska was packed, as the Hoosiers traveled to Nebraska to take on the Cornhuskers and their 90,000 fans as they look to become bowl eligible for the first time since 2016. How did the game go? Stephen Walker was there to cover all the action.
Well, it was a very hard-fought game for Tom Allen and his team on Saturday in Lincoln, Nebraska. A very hostile environment, but in the end, the Indiana Hoosiers got the job done. 38-31 is the final score. They won over Nebraska for their 6th win of the season, making them bowl eligible for the first time since 2016.
That's why I feel thankful and blessed to be the head coach here and have this opportunity. I know it was a historic win for us in a lot of ways. I'll let Jeff K go update me on how big it really was, but I know it's a big deal.
Indiana's defense was non-existent early on, as backup quarterback Noah Vedral led Nebraska on back-to-back 5-play, 75-yard touchdown drives in the first quarter. But after that, the defense picked up as Jamar Johnson stripped Vedral and Alan Stallings took it all the way to the 8-yard line early in the second quarter. One play later, Peyton Ramsey floated a fade to tie Freifogel, and Indiana led for the first time, 16-14. Ramsey was in for the injured Michael Penix Jr. for the second straight week, and he's been everything that Tom Allen could ask for and more.
Peyton Ramsey, what can I say? Just absolute stud. Tough, gritty, got that key first down with his legs, takes some shots, just finds a way to win games.
After trading blows in the second half, IU separated itself by 2 touchdowns. But after a quick score by the Huskers and a punt by the Hoosiers late in the fourth, it was up to the defense to win the game. They responded with a turnover on downs, securing bowl eligibility in October for the first time since 1993.
Well, first I'm going to enjoy this one tonight, okay? But once that's over, then all we're going to focus on is Northwestern. That's it. I don't care about nothing else. Focus on Northwestern. They're coming to town. I want a huge, huge crowd for this football team. These kids have fought and fought and fought and fought, and I want our fans to come and support this football team. I get it. I understand, okay? And I understand the frustration of the past, but I don't care, okay? I haven't been here very long, all right? All I know is what we're doing right now, and come support this football team and help these guys do something special. And that's all I can ask, because these kids are going to play hard. We're going to play perfect, but we're going to play really hard, and we're going to play for 60 minutes. We're going to find a way to sink and win the football game. And that's what these kids are, that belief is just growing and growing.
That Northwestern game is the first November night game in Memorial Stadium history. In a season where IU has accomplished more than many people thought they would, the question now is, how many more wins will this team get? Reporting for IUS TV Sports, I'm Stephen Walker.
Next up for the Cream and Crimson is a Big Ten matchup this Saturday against Northwestern right here in Bloomington.
Well, the Indiana men's soccer program is just one win away now from clinching yet another Big Ten regular season crown. Todd Yeagley's squad continues to take care of business atop the Big Ten standings with a decisive win against Ohio State on Tuesday. Miya Ingle joins us in studio to break down the team's performance. Miya?
It was senior night for the Hoosiers on Tuesday, but the freshmen were the ones who led the way for the team against Ohio State. Just 6 minutes into the game, freshman Victor Becerra found the back of the net off of a perfect set of passes from Herbert Endley and Spencer Glass to give the Hoosiers an early 1-0 lead. 2 minutes later, Becerra strikes again. This time, he finds the upper right corner of the net on a free kick, and Indiana goes up 2-0. The Hoosiers keep the momentum going in the 29th minute when Ingle finds freshman Josh Penn, who pulls out some pretty sick technical moves to get past the defender and sink in a beautiful left-footed shot. Ingle records his second assist on the night. And we'll take another look at those moves by the freshman. Whew, so good. IU went up into the break with a 3-0 lead over Ohio State. The Hoosiers continue their scoring run in the second half with another Josh Penn goal, this one in the 59th minute. Penn receives a beautiful pass from Aiden Morris and chipped the ball right over the keeper to put IU up 4-0. Ohio State avoids the shutout thanks to a Jack Holland goal in the 76th minute, but the Buckeyes still trail the Hoosiers 4-1. Now, it didn't take long for the Hoosiers to respond. Just 3 minutes later, Bazara finds open Thomas War, who beats his defender and puts up a beautiful shot to the left post to record his second goal of the season. And the whole team comes to join War to celebrate this one. The Hoosiers beat Ohio State with a final score of 5-1. 4 of the 5 goals and 4 of the assists came from freshmen. IU improves to 11-2-3 and 6-1 in conference play. That wraps up regular season play at Armstrong Stadium, but the Hoosiers will head to East Lansing on Sunday, and if they come out victorious over the Spartans, IU will bring home the regular season conference title. Back to you guys at the desk.
Miya, thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow Miya and Maxwell Glenn for updates from that matchup in East Lansing. Kickoff is set for a 3 p.m. start.
In their biggest game of the season last Sunday, Indiana women's soccer fell flat versus rival Purdue. However, the Hoosiers turned the page on a heartbreaking loss with a historic qualification to the Big Ten tournament. Our Griffin Epstein has more.
Grief and then gratitude. While Indiana could not reverse history against Purdue, the Hoosiers outlasted Michigan State to make the Big Ten tournament. IU's final home game ended with a sour taste as Purdue held on to the Golden Boot for the 5th year in a row. The game was a wild and physical rivalry affair that strayed from the Hoosiers' brand of style. Nonetheless, the Hoosiers came out of the gate hot as Melanie Forbes scored in the 10th minute for Indiana's earliest goal of the season. From there, though, everything went sideways for the Cream and Crimson.
Coach Erwin Van Bennekom wasn't too pleased with his team's performance over the course of the game. In fact, instead of Indiana improving over the course of the game, the Hoosiers got worse.
Just dropped our standards, dropped our level of intensity of how we defend, kept passing, kept giving the ball away, stopped creating angles, and if we do that, then we don't have a chance.
Purdue tied up the game on an awkward goal off a free kick. While the game remained tied well into the second half, the Boilers' goal in the 59th minute only secured the inevitable. Indiana saw essentially no offensive opportunities in the second half. It was another painful loss in a series recently controlled by Purdue.
It is what it is. We'll learn from it, and I hope we all feel it. I feel that they're celebrating on our field, which hurts more than anything.
Luckily for Indiana, their Big Ten tournament hopes were still alive. A matchup Wednesday in East Lansing versus last-place Michigan State would decide if IU's season continued. Indiana did just that, outlasting the Spartans 1-0. Avery Lockwood scored the biggest goal of IU's season in the 74th minute on a loose ball off a free kick. The freshman's team-leading 5th goal of the season was the signature moment so far of the Erwin Van Bennekom era. While IU last qualified for the tournament in 2016, it's just the Hoosiers' 3rd trip to the postseason since 2007. Indiana's 4-5-2 performance in the Big Ten garnered them the 7th seed. And last year's 7th seed in the Big Ten tournament, Minnesota, who went on to win the tourney championship. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Griffin Epstein.
Indiana faces second-seeded Rutgers Sunday at noon in New Jersey in the first round of the Big Ten tournament.
Archie Miller is ready to begin year 3 at the helm as head coach of the Indiana men's basketball program. After missing out on the NCAA tournament in his first 2 seasons in Bloomington, Miller looks to bring IU back to its glory days in March. The Hoosiers tipped off in their first and only scheduled exhibition matchup at home against Gannon University. Jack Grossman was courtside for that one. He joins us now in studio to give his biggest takeaways from that game. Jack?
Well, it wasn't always pretty, but Indiana was able to pull away from Gannon in the second half of their game Tuesday night to win by a 30-point margin. It's kind of hard to take too much away from the game, though, mainly because Al Durham and Devontae Green each sat out of the contest due to injury, and Rob Finney only played 14 minutes because of his own injury. That led Archie Miller to throw together lineup combinations that he will likely never have to play once the regular season starts. With numerous players being forced to play out of position, the Hoosiers ran very few offensive sets and relied on ball and player movement to score points. The result was more balanced scoring. 5 players were in double digits for IU, led by Justin Smith's 18 points. Smith displayed vast improvement for IU. He was perfect from the field, hitting all 5 of his shots and displayed an ability to finish tough shots in traffic, which is something that, well, he struggled greatly with during his time at IU. Smith also made smart decisions with the ball. Gannon mixed up coverages on Smith a lot in the post, trying to confuse the junior, but the Chicago native read the defense well all night, attacking when he had one-on-one situations and kicking out to the open man when a double team came. Smith had 3 assists and no turnovers on Tuesday night. To compare, he only compiled a total of 35 assists against 99 turnovers during his first 2 seasons in Bloomington. Another player that shined was freshman Armand Franklin. McDonald's All-American Trace Jackson Davis overshadowed the Cathedral High School product during his recruitment, and while TJD was really impressive in his Hoosier debut, Franklin was the biggest eye-opener. Due to all the backcourt injuries, Franklin not only played way more minutes than anyone expected, but was also forced to learn the point guard position on the fly. The freshman responded by playing a really strong all-around game. Franklin came to IU being known as a spot-up shooter that will help the Hoosiers stretch the floor offensively. And yes, don't get me wrong, Franklin shot the ball really well, but he did so much more than that. He was really good running the offense, much better than anyone could have expected as just filling in at the point guard spot. He crashed the glass very well for a guard with 8 rebounds and was applying pressure defensively all night long, forcing a trio of steals. It's just the start of a 5-month grind of a season, but Smith and Franklin showed signs of perhaps being able to play a bit bigger roles than what anyone expected for the Hoosiers this year. Jordan and Jevin, back to you.
All right, thanks, Jack. Jack and Meredith String will have you covered this season for all things IU men's basketball. The real fun begins this Tuesday when the Hoosiers open up their season against the Western Illinois Leathernecks. And be sure to follow Jack and Meredith for updates on IU's season opener. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. And in case you were wondering, a leatherneck is a term for a U.S. Marine. You learn something new every day.
That's right, Jordan. Western Illinois is the only non-military school in Division I to have a military mascot.
Crazy.
When Hoosier Sports Nite continues, see how the volleyball team stood as they took on Big Ten opponents.
And later, the IU men's and women's golf team concluded their fall seasons earlier this week. How did they fare in their final action until February? Don't go anywhere. Stick with us. You're watching Hoosier Sports Nite.
After the volleyball team fell on the road against Purdue on Wednesday, they have become losers in 10 out of their last 11 matches. Dante Cargadorian gives us some insight onto what's been the issue.
What began as a rather promising season has quickly turned disastrous for the Indiana University women's volleyball team and head coach Steve Aird. At one point in the season, the Hoosiers had showcased their dominance with a record of 11-2, even defeating the number 15 ranked Kentucky in a harder than usual non-conference schedule. The team looked poised to make their first NCAA tournament in years until Big Ten conference play began in late September, and the team immediately slowed their momentum. Since then, the Hoosiers have lost 10 of their last 11 matches against Big Ten opponents. The biggest star of the season for the Hoosiers has been sophomore Brianna Edwards, who has consistently played at a high level coming off of her breakout freshman season. Edwards is averaging above 12 kills per game and has continued to be the center of Indiana's offense. With Edwards performing at a high level, the question remains, who is to blame for this disastrous second half of the season? To put it bluntly, the team is struggling to close out matches. Many of the team's losses have been in matches with 5 sets, and the team even pushed number 5 Nebraska to a 4th set. After the team's loss to Iowa in 5 sets, Steve Aird said that closing out games is the next part of it. Part of its maturity, part of its skill, and part of its belief. Do the Hoosiers believe in themselves? though the clock is ticking for the team who now sits at 12-12 on the year and faces the number 4 ranked Wisconsin Badgers on Sunday night at Wilkinson Hall, where the Hoosiers will look to quickly turn their season around or miss out on yet another NCAA tournament. This is Dante Cargadorian reporting for IUS TV Sports.
Next up for the Hoosiers is a return home when they host number 4 Wisconsin on Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Well, golf season for the Hoosiers is coming to a close, and for the IU men's golf team, their play ended on Sunday down in Alabama at the Steelwood Collegiate Invitational. Now take a look at this. Senior Brock Oxenrider and junior Ethan Shepard led the way for the Hoosiers, with each finishing at an even par and tying for 9th place overall. And it was Oxenrider and senior captain Jack Sparrow that tied for the tournament lead and made birdies with 14 apiece. And Mitch Davis matched his career low for a single round on Sunday with a 4 under 68. Meanwhile, women's golf wrapped up fall play in a big way in Wilmington, North Carolina at the Landfall Tradition. And the Hoosiers were led by tournament winner Priscilla Schmid, who matched her career best 3-round score, shooting a 209 and finishing 7 under for the tournament. It was her first solo tournament win in Schmid's career at IU. I mean, just look at this. The next best Hoosier score was +6 overall, 13 shots more than Schmid's final total. Pretty amazing stuff there from the junior from Uruguay. And both the men's and women's teams will pick up their clubs again in February. The men will resume match play February 7th in Florida, while the women's team will open their season back up in Puerto Rico on February the 9th.
The women's field hockey team looked to snap their 8 8-game losing streak as they faced off against Central Michigan. For Indiana, Savannah Bucher, Haley Couch, and Jessica Morford all found the back of the net. This is the first time since September 13th that 3 different Hoosiers scored in a single game. Central Michigan made it a close game, but the Cream and Crimson were able to walk away with their 5th victory of the season. The Hoosiers will travel to Evanston, Illinois to take on the Northwestern Wildcats in their final game of the season on Friday at 4 o'clock.
Well, that does it for our show this week, but don't forget to like our page, IUS TV Sports, on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter while you're at it, at IUS TV Sports. For Jevin McCoskey and all the wonderful people helping out behind me, I'm Jordan Gould. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you.